I mean, think about it. You could eat the perfect macronutrient balance every single day.
Right.
You could lift weights 6 days a week. You could, I don't know, meticulously avoid every environmental toxin on the planet. And yet, if you are fundamentally lonely, your body is degrading from the inside out just as fast as if you were smoking half a pack of cigarettes a day.
It is a terrifying statistic, honestly. And it just completely upends everything we are sold about what it means to be healthy,
Yeah.
and what it actually means to live a good life.
Yeah, welcome to this deep dive. If you are listening to this right now, you are probably someone who values the truth over comfortable platitudes.
Absolutely.
You're a lifelong learner, and you likely have this sneaking suspicion that this whole good vibes only toxic positivity culture we are swimming in is not just exhausting, but it's fundamentally missing the mark. So today, our mission is to completely dismantle the happiness myth.
Tear it right down to the studs.
Exactly. We are taking a massive stack of sources you sent us, and we are going to tear it down.
And it is a phenomenal collection of material, I have to say. We're going to be synthesizing 85 years of data from the longest-running study on human development in history.
Which is wild.
Oh, it's incredible. And we're pulling insights from evolutionary psychology, looking at some brutally honest 19th century philosophy, and even examining theological frameworks of human discipline to see what they actually observe about human flourishing.
And before we get into the weeds here, let's establish some ground rules for this deep dive. Some of these sources do touch on deeply personal, religious, or philosophical frameworks.
Right, like the gospel texts mentioned in the materials.
Yeah. But our goal here isn't to proselytize or to take sides on any political or religious spectrum. We are looking at these ideas strictly as psychological and historical models.
We just want to understand the mechanics of the human condition that these traditions have observed, totally independent of any personal creed or belief system.
Exactly. We are acting as impartial mechanics today. We're just opening up the hood of the human mind to see why it hums along sometimes and why it completely stalls out at other times.
So let's open the hood. Because before we can build a model of what actually makes a good life, we have to look at the faulty parts we're currently working with.
Right.
The sources argue that popular culture has handed us a set of expectations about happiness that are actively, aggressively making you miserable.
And they categorize these into three major traps, right?
Yeah, the three myths of modern happiness.
Okay, I want to start with the first one because it feels almost completely ingrained in us from birth. Myth number one is this assumption that happiness is the natural default state for a human being.
Right.
The idea is basically if you have a roof over your head, food in the fridge, and you aren't currently being chased by a predator, you should just naturally be walking around in a state of baseline joy.
Which is a beautiful idea in theory. But as the psychological data in our sources points out, it is a catastrophic misunderstanding of human emotion.
Because emotion isn't static.
Exactly. Emotion isn't a static baseline. Emotion is in constant flux.
The text uses this brilliant analogy of the weather that I just love. Like if you look outside your window on a 72-degree sunny spring afternoon, you wouldn't say, ah, yes, the natural state of the weather and anything else is a disease.
Right. Because winter is just as natural. A violent thunderstorm is completely natural.
Yeah.
A drought, a blizzard, they're all naturally occurring atmospheric states based on the conditions.
But emotionally, we don't treat ourselves that way at all. I mean, if you, the listener, are stuck in gridlock traffic on your commute right now and you're running late for a high-stakes meeting, you are in a challenging situation with an uncertain outcome.
Your internal weather should be anxiety.
Exactly. That is your emotional winter.
Right, and if there's a legitimate threat present, say, you might lose your job, you should expect to feel fear. That's the thunderstorm. But culturally, we have developed this bizarre amnesia. We treat the sunny day as the only acceptable baseline, and any other emotional weather event is seen as a failure on our part.
Which bleeds right into the second trap. Because if you think sunshine is the only acceptable weather, you're going to define your entire existence around chasing it.
Yep.
So myth number two is the definition of happiness as merely feeling good.
Open almost any dictionary, and you will see happiness defined as a state of pleasure or contentment.
But wait, why is that a trap? I mean, isn't that what we all want? If I get a massive promotion or I buy that car I've been saving up for, I feel immense pleasure. That feels like happiness to me.
It is pleasure, absolutely. But how long does it actually last? Think about the absolute happiest day of your life, the peak moment of pure contentment.
Okay.
How many hours did that state actually persist before reality tapped you on the shoulder? Before a flight got delayed, or you got a headache, or you just got slightly irritated because your blood sugar dropped.
Oh man, okay, fair point. It's incredibly fleeting.
Our biology, fundamentally, does not allow for a permanent state of bliss. So, the authors of our sources argue that if we use the dictionary definition of happiness, constant pleasure, we are playing a game we are biologically destined to lose.
So we have to redefine the word.
We do. They suggest replacing pleasant feelings with the concept of living a rich and meaningful life.
But here's the massive caveat that people miss, and I think this is crucial. A rich and meaningful life inherently requires you to experience the full spectrum of negative emotions. You cannot have the meaning without the pain.
The parenting example in the text illustrates this perfectly.
Yes, I loved this part.
Right. If you ask a room full of parents if having children brought massive, incomprehensible meaning and purpose to their lives, every hand goes up.
But the author talks about doing these workshops and asking the follow-up question. He says, okay, it brought you meaning, but what other specific feelings does raising a child give you? And the audience just starts laughing.
Yes, it's this deep, visceral laugh of shared trauma.
Exactly, because they know the truth. They immediately start shouting out the realities.
Yeah.
Terror, guilt, profound anxiety, frustration, absolute rage.
It is wild that the people we love the most on this planet have the capacity to arouse the most agonizing emotions inside of us.
But that's the point, isn't it? Meaning requires vulnerability. If you care deeply about a child's future, you are opening yourself up to the terror that something might happen to them.
Exactly. And this isn't just about parenting either. Apply this to any meaningful life project.
Yeah.
Starting a business.
Yeah.
Trying to stay sober. Maintaining a marriage for 40 years. Creating a piece of art. If you are doing something that makes life rich, you are signing up for a massive, unavoidable dose of painful emotions alongside the pleasant ones.
Which brings us to the third myth, and this is the one that I think is doing the most damage in our culture right now. Myth number 3. The belief that if you are unhappy, you are defective.
Yes. This is the medicalization of normal human suffering. We have adopted this societal narrative that says, if you are experiencing prolonged difficulty or sadness, there is a chemical imbalance in your brain, you are broken, and you need to be fixed.
But hold on, let's play this out logically based on what we just said. If any meaningful project like we just established with marriage or raising kids or building a career is absolutely guaranteed to bring you pain, fear, and frustration,
Right.
aren't we basically treating normal human existence as a psychiatric disease?
That is the exact trap the sources are pointing out. The author of the psychological text asks a brilliant question in his workshops. He says, does anyone here feel like their life is just entirely too easy and you'd like me to assign you some more suffering?
Let me guess, nobody raises their hand.
Nobody ever raises their hand because life is inherently difficult.
So if you are struggling, you aren't broken, you are just a weight.
Precisely. Now, we aren't dismissing clinical depression or severe psychiatric conditions that require medical intervention.
Of course not, yeah.
But for the vast majority of people, feeling anxious or stressed out doesn't mean your machine is broken. It means your machine is operating exactly as it was designed to.
And that leads to the biggest question of all for me. If it is completely normal to struggle, to feel anxious, to feel a sense of dread, why?
Yeah.
Why on earth did human beings evolve a brain that generates so much psychological suffering? Shouldn't evolution have designed us to be happy so that we want to stay alive?
See, that is a very modern assumption. Evolution doesn't care if you are happy.
It doesn't.
Not at all. Evolution only cares if you survive long enough to pass on your genetic material. To understand why our brains torture us, the evolutionary psychology source material suggests we need to travel back about 200,000 years to the Stone Age.
Right. Blame the caveman.
Always blame the caveman. Put yourself in the environment of our early hunter-gatherer ancestors. Life was astonishingly dangerous. You were living in a harsh environment surrounded by predators, susceptible to disease, and competing with other clans for incredibly scarce resources.
So if a caveman was just wandering around, marveling at a beautiful sunset, completely blissed out and feeling totally contented.
That caveman got eaten by a saber-toothed tiger.
Right.
Or he starved when winter came because he wasn't stressed enough to hoard food. The humans who survived were the ones whose brains operated as relentless threat detection machines.
Survival of the most anxious.
Exactly. The default setting of the successful Stone Age brain was safety first. It was constantly scanning the horizon asking, What could go wrong?
Ugh.
Is that shadow a predator? Is that plant poisonous? Is my clan gonna kick me out?
And the jarring reality is that we, sitting in our climate-controlled offices or driving our hybrid cars, have inherited that exact same biological hardware.
Yep.
Our modern minds are still running that 200,000-year-old threat detection software.
The brain doesn't know you live in a safe suburb. It just knows how to look for danger. The source material maps these specific Stone Age survival traits to our modern anxieties, and the parallels are incredible. Let's look at rumination.
Oh, replaying memories over and over again in your head. I do this all the time.
Right, we all do. In the Stone Age, rumination was a highly effective survival tactic. Let's say you were attacked by a wolf and you barely escaped. It was incredibly useful for your brain to force you to replay that terrifying event on a loop.
So you could learn from it. Like, okay, the wolf hid behind that specific type of rock. It attacked when the sun went down. You ruminate so you don't make the same mistake twice.
Yes. But flash forward to today. You are lying in bed at 2 a.m. and your brain suddenly forces you to aggressively ruminate on an awkward joke you made at a dinner party 5 years ago.
Oh man, there is no wolf. I'm just sweating in my bed, cringing at myself. There is absolutely no survival value in replaying a slightly botched social interaction from half a decade ago.
But your brain doesn't know that. It treats social awkwardness as a threat to your standing in the tribe. Which brings us to the next evolutionary trait, social comparison.
This one is brutal.
For a cave person, belonging to a small group of maybe 50 to 100 people was literal life or death. If you were cast out of the tribe, you couldn't hunt alone, you couldn't stay warm, you died.
Wow.
So the brain evolved to constantly ask, am I fitting in? Am I contributing? Am I valued by the group?
But the scale of that mechanism has been completely hijacked. We aren't comparing ourselves to 50 people in our immediate physical vicinity anymore.
No, we carry glowing rectangles in our pockets that connect us to millions of people.
Millions. So instead of comparing your hunting skills to the guy in the next cave, you are sitting on your couch looking at a curated highlight reel of a 22-year-old billionaire on a yacht in Monaco, or a supermodel with a personal trainer and a private chef.
Right.
The algorithm massively amplifies the fear of being judged, rejected, or just fundamentally not good enough.
And then on top of the rumination and the social comparison, you have the survival imperative of greed.
The drive for more.
The caveman mind said, you need more food. You need a better spear. You need more secure shelter. The ancestors who felt a restless dissatisfaction with what they had and always wanted more were the ones who stockpiled resources and survived a famine.
But today, that evolutionary drive manifests as this endless, unquenchable craving. You get the promotion you've wanted for 3 years, and you feel good for maybe a week.
If that.
Right. Then your brain says, okay, but what's the next title up? You buy the new house, and 3 months later, you're looking at Zillow wanting a bigger yard.
Because the brain is doing its job. It's keeping you striving. And the sources point out something crucial here. The sheer pace and complexity of modern life. The endless emails, the notifications, the 24-hour news cycle, it all acts as a giant megaphone for these ancient thought patterns.
So if you are listening to this and you constantly feel a low-level hum of anxiety, your brain isn't broken. It's just a wildly outdated fire alarm system. But here's where I get stuck. How are we supposed to actually live with a brain that treats an unread email from our boss with the exact same physiological panic as a predator in the bushes?
That is the pivotal question. And that evolutionary drive for more, that restless dissatisfaction we just talked about, that leads us perfectly into the philosophical source material.
Okay, let's get into it.
Because long before we had evolutionary psychology or fMRI brain scans, a 19th century philosopher diagnosed this exact biological trap.
Arthur Schopenhauer.
Yes, writing in Germany in the 1820s. Schopenhauer was a profoundly observant and, admittedly, pessimistic thinker. He spent a lot of time observing the wealthy elite, people who had everything money could buy, endlessly chasing pleasure after pleasure.
And what did he find?
He realized they weren't actually enjoying themselves, they were running.
Running from what he called the cruel joke of human existence. He argued that our lives are structured like a pendulum, swinging endlessly between two states of being, pain and boredom.
The pendulum of pain and boredom. It's a devastating framework, but we need to unpack how accurate it is. Schopenhauer observed that the default human state is wanting something you don't have. And he classified the state of wanting as a state of active suffering. It is the pain of lack.
Let's make this tangible. It's the pain of being single and desperately wanting a partner, Or the acute stress of needing $2,000 for rent and only having $1,200 in your checking account. The lack is a physical, palpable pain.
Right, desire hurts. Now, the cruel joke is our assumption about the cure. We believe universally that the solution to the pain of wanting something is to finally acquire the thing we want.
Get the money, get the partner, get the car, and the pain stops. Joy begins. That's the dream.
But Schopenhauer realized that when you acquire the object of your desire, the feeling you experience isn't actually positive joy. It is merely the temporary absence of pain. The craving just stops hurting.
It's a neutral state, like taking a pebble out of your shoe.
Yes, exactly.
The foot doesn't feel euphoric, it just stops throbbing.
Exactly. And the human mind is fundamentally incapable of resting in a neutral state. Neutrality very rapidly degrades into nothingness, and nothingness is experienced as boredom.
So the pendulum swings from the agonizing pain of desire, it passes briefly through satisfaction, and then immediately swings up into the hollow emptiness of boredom.
And Schopenhauer argued that this emptiness, this boredom, is almost worse than the pain of desire.
Really?
Worse. Because when you were in pain, when you were striving, you at least had a narrative. You had hope. You told yourself, once I get the promotion, then my life will finally make sense.
Oh, wow. But now you have the promotion, you have the corner office, and you realize you are still just you. You are still stuck in your own head, still dealing with your insecurities, and there is no magic solution.
So what does the human mind do to escape the terror of that boredom? It instantly generates a new desire, a new goal. The pendulum swings violently back to pain, and the cycle starts all over again and continues until you die.
Okay, I have to ask the obvious question here. Why?
Why what?
If this system is so obviously flawed and torturous, why are we built this way? What is the engine driving this pendulum?
To explain the engine, Schopenhauer introduces his most famous concept. He called it the will, capital W.
And we need to be clear here, he is not talking about willpower. He doesn't mean the discipline to wake up at 5 a.m. and go for a run.
No, completely different. For Schopenhauer, the will is a fundamental, blind, irrational, unconscious, cosmic energy that drives all of existence.
Okay, that sounds intense.
It is. It is the invisible force that makes a plant blindly reach toward the sunlight. It is the force that drives an animal to violently hunt its prey. And in human beings, the will is the puppeteer pulling our strings.
And the deeply unsettling part of his philosophy is that the will does not give a single damn about your personal happiness. It doesn't care about your fulfillment, your peace of mind, or your dreams. It has one sole, relentless objective to perpetuate the species. Keep the game going.
You think you are making rational, free choices. You think, I have evaluated my options and I choose to pursue this career path, or I have chosen to date this specific person.
But we aren't.
Schopenhauer says absolutely not. The will manufactured that desire inside of you, forced you to suffer until you achieved it, and then instantly generated a new desire to ensure you stay in perpetual motion.
I want to push back on this because the source material brings up the example of romantic love, and I find Schopenhauer's take incredibly cynical.
It's very dark.
Are you telling me that the profound love someone feels for their spouse, the sacrifices they make, the poetry they write, you're saying that is just a biological parlor trick that strips all the romance out of human existence?
It's deeply cynical, but look at the mechanics of it through his lens. Falling in love feels like the most profound, unique, transcendent experience in the universe. But Schopenhauer would argue it is just the will manipulating your brain chemistry to ensure reproduction and the survival of the next generation.
So it's just a trick to get us to procreate.
Yes, it creates an overwhelming obsession, convinces you this specific person is your soulmate, all to serve the species.
Okay, but what happens after that? People get married, they settle down.
And what happens to that initial blinding infatuation? The intensity fades. The chemicals recalibrate, the obsession lifts. Schopenhauer would say, this isn't because you chose the wrong person, it's because the will achieved its objective and has released its grip on your neurochemistry. The cosmic force is moving on.
And this is where the pendulum trap catches people. They feel that infatuation fade, the boredom sets in, and instead of recognizing the biological shift, they think, oh no, the spark is gone, my soulmate is actually out there somewhere else, I need a divorce, I need a new relationship.
Yep.
And they jump right back into the pain of desire, running the exact same script with a new actor.
They are just chasing the whip of the will. And if you map Schopenhauer's 19th century philosophy onto our 21st century reality, it is chilling, because we've built an entire consumer capitalist civilization dedicated to optimizing this exact pendulum.
Oh, totally. We have systematically eliminated the waiting period between desire and fulfillment. The friction is completely gone.
Think about the mechanics of modern technology.
You want a specific type of food you just saw in a commercial. You don't have to hunt it, you don't even have to cook it. You press a button on a delivery app, and 30 minutes later, it's on your doorstep.
Exactly.
You desire entertainment. You don't have to wait for a play to come to town. You have an infinite scroll of algorithms feeding you dopamine hits every 15 seconds on TikTok. You want validation. Post a highly edited photo of yourself and watch the likes roll in real time. We have industrialized instant satisfaction.
But look at the result through Schopenhauer's framework. Because we can satisfy our desires so rapidly, the pendulum swings faster and faster. You get the food, you get the dopamine hit from the phone, but the satisfaction degrades into boredom almost instantly. So you need another hit and another.
If Schopenhauer were alive today, he wouldn't see a society of fulfilled, happy people. He would look at us and see a massive population of addicts desperately swiping and scrolling to avoid confronting the terrifying emptiness of the boredom phase.
So we have this blind cosmic force pulling our strings and an economy designed to exploit it. I know what you're thinking. This is the most depressing philosophy ever devised.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little hopeless here. Where is the exit? Did he offer any way out?
He did, thankfully. The sources detail 3 specific exits. Schopenhauer proposed to temporarily escape the tyranny of the will. The first exit he suggests is through art.
But he doesn't just mean casually looking at a painting while checking your phone, right?
Yeah.
He is referring to a very specific psychological phenomenon he called the aesthetic state.
Yes.
Let's break that down because it sounds a bit academic.
Okay.
What does it actually feel like?
Think about a moment when you were completely, utterly absorbed in a profound piece of music at a live concert. Or when you stood in front of a vast, sweeping landscape. Or watched a truly masterful film in a dark theater. In those moments of total absorption, the wanting stops.
You aren't thinking about your unpaid taxes or the argument you had with your partner or whether your outfit looks good.
Your ego, your sense of self with all its endless fears and desires temporarily dissolves. You become what he called a will-less subject of knowing. For that brief window of time, you are just pure awareness experiencing beauty. You aren't a puppet trying to get something.
Oh, I see.
That's why we get chills from a symphony or weep at a beautiful movie. It is the profound relief of briefly escaping the will.
But it is brief. The movie credits roll, the house lights come up, you walk out to the parking lot, and boom, the will re-engages. You realize you're hungry, you remember you have to work tomorrow, you check your email. The aesthetic state is a vacation, not a permanent residence. So what is his second exit?
The second exit is compassion. And this requires a radical shift in perspective. If you realize that every single human being on Earth is a puppet controlled by the exact same blind, irrational will, then you realize that the boundaries separating us are an illusion.
We are all suffering from the exact same fundamental condition.
Yes, when you look at someone else who is suffering, you are literally looking at yourself. This isn't just polite empathy or pity, it is a profound metaphysical recognition.
Right.
The billionaire stressing over his stock portfolio on a mega yacht and the unhoused person stressing over their next meal on the street are both trapped by the exact same mechanism. They occupy wildly different socioeconomic positions on the pendulum, but neither of them has escaped the game.
Recognizing that can make you far less judgmental. It connects you to humanity, but again, it doesn't sever the puppet strings. You're still on the pendulum, which leads to his third and ultimate exit.
Asceticism, the deliberate, conscious denial of desire.
Now, when people hear asceticism, they picture a monk living in a cave, eating a single grain of rice a day.
It doesn't have to be that extreme. In a modern context, the sources frame this as cultivating a radical, intentional indifference to the things the will and society demands that you chase. It is deliberate deprivation as a form of rebellion.
It's actual minimalism, not the trendy Instagram aesthetic of having a pristine house with a $2,000 beige couch. It's the internal choice to reduce your needs.
It is stepping back when you feel a craving and asking, do I actually want a more expensive car, or did the will, operating through car commercials and status anxiety, install this desire in me to keep me striving?
Freedom, in this view, isn't getting what you want. Freedom is observing a desire arise in your mind and actively, defiantly choosing not to act on it, finding the space between the impulse and the action.
It is opting out of the status game entirely.
Okay, so Schopenhauer's answer is fundamentally stop chasing, stop wanting. But what happens if we put that theory to the test against real-world data? What happens when we look at actual human beings who spent an entire lifetime doing the exact opposite, chasing careers, chasing money, chasing families?
This transition brings us to the most robust piece of evidence in our stack, the Harvard Study of Adult Development.
This study is the ultimate 85-year reality check on all these theories. It is widely considered the longest, deepest, most comprehensive longitudinal study of human development ever conducted.
We need to explain the sheer scope of this because it is staggering. It started all the way back in 1938 during the Great Depression, and it began as two entirely separate studies that didn't even know about each other.
Right. The first group was comprised of 268 young men who were sophomores at Harvard College. The researchers wanted to study what factors led to normal, healthy young adult development. Of course, in 1938 at Harvard, normal meant studying exclusively white men from highly privileged, elite, educated backgrounds.
One of those sophomores literally went on to become the President of the United States.
Oh, wow.
John F. Kennedy was in this cohort.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then you had the second group, which was the polar opposite.
The second group consisted of 456 boys from some of the poorest, most disadvantaged neighborhoods in Boston. Many of them lived in tenements without running water.
So you have the ultimate spectrum of privilege and disadvantage. Eventually, these two groups were merged into one massive study. And they didn't just check in on them once a decade. They tracked these men meticulously as they grew up, served in World War II, became doctors, bricklayers, lawyers, and factory workers.
Some became alcoholics. Some developed schizophrenia.
Yes, the full range of human experience. They eventually brought in their spouses and then their children. The study now tracks between 2,500 and 3,000 people.
And the evolution of the data collection is fascinating. In the 1930s, they were doing basic physical exams and asking them about their childhoods. But as medical technology advanced, the study advanced.
Very much so.
This is where I need you to explain some of the science, because the text mentions they are now collecting data on DNA methylation and messenger RNA. When I read that, I'm picturing a sci-fi movie. What does that actually mean? How does my happiness change my DNA?
Well, they aren't looking at changes to the underlying genetic code itself. They are looking at epigenetics, how behaviors and environment affect the expression of those genes. DNA methylation is a biological process where methyl groups are added to the DNA molecule. This can change the activity of a DNA segment without changing the sequence.
So in layman's terms, if I experience chronic, debilitating stress over decades, it can literally leave a physical, chemical mark on my genes that dictates how my body functions.
Exactly. They are measuring how a lifetime of emotional experiences physically alters cellular function. They also take hair samples to measure long-term circulating cortisol levels.
So they can see your stress history.
Right, looking at the historical record of stress in the body. They bring participants into the lab, deliberately expose them to psychological stress, and measure the precise physiological speed at which their bodies can return to a baseline state.
All of this immense scientific effort is directed at answering one question: what actually leads to a happy, healthy, long life? So let's dive into their data, and let's start with the most obvious metric, the one everybody argues about: money. Does money buy happiness?
The data on this is highly nuanced, and our sources outline a fascinating debate in the scientific community that we need to unpack.
For a long time, the gold standard on this question was a famous 2010 study by two Nobel laureates, Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton.
Right. Kahneman and Deaton analyzed data from hundreds of thousands of Americans and concluded that yes, money increases emotional well-being, but it hits a hard plateau. They found that once a person reached an income of roughly $75,000 a year, their day-to-day happiness stopped increasing. Beyond $75K, more money didn't equate to more joy.
And the public loved that study. It felt incredibly egalitarian. It was comforting to think the billionaire isn't actually any happier than the middle-class manager. But then in 2021, a researcher named Matthew Killingsworth challenged this.
Killingsworth came in with a massive, modernized data set. He used a smartphone app to track 33,000 employed U.S. adults, pinging them randomly throughout the day to report their feelings in real time. And his findings directly contradicted the Nobel laureates.
Wait, totally contradicted?
Yes, completely. He found absolutely zero evidence of a plateau. According to his data, higher income just kept corresponding to higher well-being, soaring well past $75,000 and even past $200,000.
So you have two massive, highly respected, data-driven studies saying completely opposite things. But I love what happened next. Instead of just fighting in academic journals, they engaged in what is called an adversarial collaboration.
It is a beautiful example of how science should work. In 2022, Kahneman and Killingsworth teamed up. They brought in an independent arbiter, a researcher named Barbara Mellers, to help them merge their data sets and figure out why they got different results.
And what they discovered when they sliced the data together is brilliant. The answer to whether money buys happiness depends entirely on whether you are already a fundamentally happy or unhappy person.
Exactly. The arbiter helped them realize they were measuring different parts of the emotional spectrum. When they broke the population down by baseline happiness levels, the bottom 20%, the middle, and the top, a clear pattern emerged.
Let's start with the unhappy group. If you are in the unhappiest 20% of the population, money does help increase your happiness. But Kahneman was right, it hits a hard ceiling. For this group, the benefits of money max out at roughly $100,000 a year.
After that six-figure mark, no amount of additional wealth alleviates their fundamental unhappiness.
It makes logical sense. Money is fantastic at solving money problems. If you are stressed about making rent or fixing your car, money instantly removes that misery. But if you are clinically depressed or grieving the loss of a child or profoundly lonely, $1 million won't generate joy. It just makes you a wealthy, miserable person.
Precisely. However, for the people in the middle and upper tiers of baseline happiness, Killingsworth was right. For those who are already emotionally healthy, higher income continued to lead to more happiness with no plateau whatsoever.
And the ultimate twist in the data was that the people who were the happiest to begin with stood to gain the most accelerated joy from increasing their income.
So synthesizing all this, the takeaway on money is this. Earning a living wage matters deeply. It provides a crucial foundation of security and removes the acute pain of lack. But it is not the engine of happiness itself, it is an amplifier of your existing emotional state.
Okay, so money is an amplifier. Moving on from wealth, the Harvard study and the surrounding meta-analyses highlight a second non-negotiable pillar, which shouldn't be a surprise: physical health and exercise.
You cannot talk about psychological well-being without addressing the physical machine it runs on.
I have to inject the specific data on this from the sources because the return on investment is staggering. There was a massive Taiwanese study that analyzed the medical records of 416,000 people. They found that just 15 minutes of moderate exercise a day, literally just taking a brisk 15-minute walk, reduced the overall risk of dying by 14% and added 3 full years to life expectancy.
3 years of life for 15 minutes a day. And the neurological protection is just as vital. Meta-analyses in the sources show that regular physical activity reduces the risk of overall cognitive decline by 35% and specifically reduces the risk of dementia by 14%.
So manage your money, take a walk. But that brings us to the climax of the 85-year Harvard study. What was the ultimate overarching finding? When the researchers looked back at all the data from when these thousands of participants were 50 years old, what was the single strongest predictor of who would be happy, healthy, and thriving at age 80 versus who would be sick or dead?
Going into the analysis, the researchers assumed the best predictors would be physical markers. They thought they would look at cholesterol levels, blood pressure, cardiovascular health at age 50 to predict health at 80.
But they were wrong.
They were completely wrong. The single strongest predictor of physical health and longevity at age 80 wasn't cholesterol. It was relationship satisfaction at age 50.
The people who were the most satisfied in their relationships at 50 were the healthiest at 80. Relationships literally keep us alive.
And this finding isn't isolated to Harvard. A massive 2010 global review of 148 studies encompassing over 300,000 participants corroborated this. They found that people with strong social connections had a 50% increased likelihood of survival in any given year compared to those with weak connections.
But if human connection is the ultimate life support system, the flip side of that data is absolutely terrifying. If connection keeps us alive, disconnection is lethal. And that brings us to the loneliness epidemic.
We have to define loneliness very carefully here, because it is widely misunderstood. Loneliness is not about how many people are physically near you. Loneliness is subjective. It is defined as the gap between the level of deep connection you want and the level of connection you actually have.
You can be physically isolated in a cabin in the woods and feel perfectly connected and content. Or, conversely, you can be surrounded by hundreds of people at a crowded party. Or you can be lying in bed next to your spouse of 20 years and feel profoundly, agonizingly lonely.
Exactly. And the physical toll of that subjective loneliness is devastating. The researcher Julianne Holt-Lunstad conducted a meta-analysis on the physical effects of social isolation. Her final calculation is chilling. Being chronically lonely is as dangerous to your physical health as smoking half a pack of cigarettes every single day.
I want the listener to really sit with that. Your body degrades from a lack of friendship at the exact same rate as if you were inhaling carcinogens.
It is functionally equivalent to being clinically obese. The specific statistics are sobering. Poor social relationships are associated with a 29% increase in the risk of developing heart disease, a 32% increase in the risk of stroke. And for retired adults, those who report feeling lonely experience a 20% higher rate of cognitive decline over a 10-year period.
Okay, I need you to explain the how here.
Yeah.
What is the actual mechanism? I understand how smoke damages lungs, but how does a feeling of loneliness physically clog my arteries and cause a stroke?
It all comes back to the nervous system and how we evolved to handle stress. The leading well-supported hypothesis is that relationships act as our primary biological emotion regulators.
Walk us through the mechanics of that.
Let's use a metaphor. Imagine your nervous system is a car engine. When you experience a highly stressful event, a conflict at work, a financial crisis, your body enters a fight or flight response. Your amygdala sounds the alarm. Your heart rate accelerates, your blood pressure spikes, and your adrenal glands flood your system with stress hormones like cortisol.
The engine is redlining. It's running incredibly hot to give you the energy to survive the threat.
Exactly. That is a healthy, necessary biological response. But a car engine cannot redline forever without melting down. It needs a cooling system. Biologically, the human body is designed to use deep social connection as its primary cooling system.
The radiator flute.
Yes. If you endure a massive stressor and then you go home and sit on the couch with a partner or a friend who you deeply fundamentally trust, and you talk about what happened, your biology reacts. The physical presence of a trusted ally signals to your brain that you are safe. Your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in. The relationship literally, physically metabolizes the circulating cortisol and brings the chronic inflammation back down to a baseline equilibrium.
So, talking to a friend isn't just a nice psychological comfort, it is a physiological intervention. But what happens to the lonely person?
The lonely person faces the exact same stressors, their engine red lines, but they have no radiator fluid. They have no biological co-regulation. So their body stays stuck in a chronic state of fight or flight.
They are just marinating in high levels of cortisol and chronic inflammation day after day, year after year.
And over time, that constant state of hyperarousal and chronic inflammation acts like acid on the physical machine. It degrades the inner lining of your coronary arteries, increasing the risk of heart attacks. It exacerbates joint inflammation and arthritis. It disrupts insulin regulation, contributing to type 2 diabetes. It systematically breaks down your organs.
When I look at this mechanism, it terrifies me because I look at the macro trends in our society. The source material highlights a news clip citing a study on social engagement. In 2003, the average person spent 60 minutes a day actively engaging with friends. By 2020, that number had plummeted to just 20 minutes a day.
We have seen a catastrophic societal-level drop in the exact behavior that regulates our nervous systems and keeps us alive.
We are starving for real biological co-regulation, but we are feeding on the empty calories of screens. We're trapped on Schopenhauer's pendulum, endlessly scrolling, substituting a like or a text message for the rich, complex, in-person connection our biology desperately requires. How do we break this cycle?
This brings us to the final source in our stack, which tackles the practical application of everything we've discussed. We know the evolutionary traps our caveman brains set for us. We understand the philosophical pendulum of endless desire. And we have 85 years of hard science proving that deep relationships are a biological imperative. So how do we actually build them? The final source argues that the antidote to all of this is a concept that is deeply unpopular in modern culture.
Discipline. You're right, that is not a sexy word in the modern wellness space.
No, it runs counter to everything we are sold. The source points out a massive illusion in our current age, the myth that ultimate freedom and happiness come from just doing whatever you want whenever you feel like it.
The ultimate modern ethos, I'm just gonna do me. If it doesn't serve my peace, I'm out.
Right. But as we learned from Schopenhauer, doing whatever you want just puts you on the fast track to instant gratification. It brings momentary, fleeting pleasure, which is followed immediately by boredom, emptiness, and isolation. It is absolutely not a path to lasting joy.
To get that lasting joy, the final source argues you have to construct an authentic or integrated life. And an integrated life means forcibly aligning your deepest stated beliefs with your actual daily actions.
And doing that requires massive, unyielding discipline. Why? Because relationships, the very thing the Harvard study proved will literally save your life, are fundamentally inconvenient.
This is such a profound point. We all have fun friends, right? It is incredibly easy to be friends with people who require absolutely nothing of us, the people you only see for happy hour when the weather is nice.
But true connection, the kind that regulates your nervous system, is only forged and tested when a friend actually requires something of you. And whatever they require is almost guaranteed to be inconvenient.
It's not going to be the most fun thing you could be doing on a Saturday afternoon. It's giving up your weekend to help them move a heavy couch up 3 flights of stairs. It's sitting with them in silence in a sterile hospital waiting room. It's answering a phone call at 2 a.m. when you are exhausted and have a presentation the next morning because they are in the middle of a crisis.
Embracing that inconvenience requires discipline. The director of the Harvard study made a brilliant analogy. He said we have to start treating our relationships the exact same way we treat physical fitness.
You don't just go to the gym once, do 3 bicep curls, and say, great, my arms are strong, I never have to lift a weight again for the rest of my life.
You have to make it a daily and weekly practice. You have to actively choose to make the phone call, to schedule the coffee date, to ask the difficult questions, even when you are tired, even when it's inconvenient. You have to actively maintain the emotional musculature of the bond.
To illustrate the ultimate goal of this disciplined, integrated life, the source material brings in a fascinating theological perspective. And again, examining this purely impartially as a model of human psychology, they point to the writings of the Apostle Paul in the 1st century.
Yes, Paul wrote several of his most famous letters while incarcerated in a Roman prison. And as the source carefully notes, a 1st century prison was not like a modern facility with a library and a cafeteria. It was a dark, damp, squalid dungeon.
Yet the central theme radiating from the letters he wrote in that miserable cell wasn't complaining. It wasn't despair. It was joy. Profound, unshakable joy.
The conceptual takeaway here is incredibly powerful. The goal of an integrated, disciplined life isn't to guarantee that you will always be comfortable. The goal is to cultivate a deep sense of joy that is completely independent of your situational circumstances.
Anyone can be happy when the circumstances are perfectly aligned. When you have $1 million in the bank, when you're on a beach in Hawaii, when the sun is shining, that requires 0 effort.
But developing a joy that nobody can take away from you, a joy that sustains you even when life throws you into the figurative or literal prison cell, that is the absolute pinnacle of human flourishing.
Which brings us completely full circle to the very first myth we discussed at the top of the deep dive, the weather analogy.
Exactly. If your joy does not depend on the weather of your circumstances, then you are truly free.
The inevitable pain of life, the winter blizzards, the terrifying thunderstorms, the gridlock traffic, they don't mean you are defective. They don't mean your life is a failure or that you need to be medicated for feeling sad. It just means you are alive, experiencing the full, chaotic spectrum of a rich and meaningful human existence.
That is the ultimate reframing of the happiness myth. It's replacing the pursuit of a fleeting feeling with the pursuit of a meaningful, connected life.
So to synthesize this immense journey for you, the listener, you are not broken if you are unhappy or anxious. Your 200,000-year-old caveman brain is just doing its job, desperately scanning for threats to keep you alive. Do not fall for the modern algorithmic optimization of Schopenhauer's pendulum, where you constantly chase instant gratification only to be rewarded with instant hollow boredom.
And the 85 years of Harvard data explicitly proves that sacrificing your relationships to chase badges of achievement, endless wealth, or superficial status is a fundamental biological mistake.
So embrace the inconvenience. Embrace the discipline required to cultivate deep, messy, meaningful connections. Lean into the tension and the effort of showing up for the people you care about, because they are, quite literally, your life support system.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a final challenge, a provocation that builds directly on everything we've dissected today. I want you to think about the one thing you are currently losing sleep over. That one thing you are completely convinced that, once you finally get it, you will be happy.
We all have one. A number in the bank account, a specific job title, a person's approval.
If Schopenhauer is right, getting that thing will only lead to a very brief moment of relief before the emptiness and boredom set in all over again. So what would happen if, just for today, you decided to consciously step off the pendulum? What if you deliberately stopped wanting it? And instead, what if you took all of that anxious, striving energy and used it to call a friend who might need you?
Now that is a thought worth sitting with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.